I hope members you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
That's good. Hello and how are you? My name is Muhindo and I welcome you to our 14th lecture of creating a complete inventory management system that is web-based, also with a mobile application. In our today's lecture, we're going to proceed from where we stopped at, and then we see how it can do it. We can do more things, and today we are going to mainly start creating the API. So if you still remember yesterday in the previous lecture, we stopped at the point where we had finished at least mastering all our tables and also mastering part of the dashboard, and I show you how you can proceed with it. So today we're going to see how we can create the API and also being able to get started with our mobile application, and we see how we can connect the two. So with that much said, we should always do 40 minutes and our timer has started. So let's go straight to our today's business. So this is our system. I've already put it in Visual Studio Code. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to run it so it can start running. Okay, so I'll go ahead and open my terminal and run php at serve. So by running php at serve, the system will start running on this port, and if you click on it, I can see our system is there up and running. So today we're going to proceed from there, okay, by start creating the API and also seeing how we can integrate now the API with the mobile application. Okay, so what is the API? If it's new to you, the API is an interface that is going to work between our application that is on the server, or which is at the heart of the system, and all with other external applications. So let's say that we want maybe to collect data from the mobile apps. We want to collect data from maybe the front end of maybe React. We want to collect data maybe from the Internet of Things such as vehicles. So from any other source, we want application to be compatible with them. So it mean that it will mean that we shall need what we call an API. So an API will enable application to work with other external sources. So today we're going to begin by creating that API. We see how we can log in someone, also maybe how someone can submit the information, and then we receive it in our API. So with that much said, let's go ahead and begin. Okay, so to create an API, you may need some applications, some system to test it. Okay, some application to test it. So to test the API, we always use Postman. So with Postman, you'll be able to test your endpoints and see if they are working properly or if they are not working properly. So I'm going to begin by creating just a very simple API that anyone can be able to use. Right, so let's begin. So at beginning, you're going to, maybe you may need to create come here and download and install what you call Postman. So this Postman is a software that will help you to test your endpoints. So also if you're developing with more than one person on the project, also this Postman will also help you to be able to contribute and put all your things together, and someone can know how you have done some endpoints, so how the data that is expected on endpoints. So go ahead and search for download Postman, and then you'll see the first search results. So go ahead and download and install Postman. It is very simple to download Postman and straightforward. It is simple and straightforward to download Postman. So with that much said, for me, I already have Postman in my system, in my laptop, in my computer. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open the Postman. So I'll go ahead and click here and write Postman, and there it is. So this Postman is now that we're going to do what? To use to create our API, as well as doing what? As well as sharing with other people who may need to contribute to API. So first things first, so this is how you open Postman, you create an account, you log in. So creating an account is simple and logging in is simple and straightforward. Okay, so now once you have Postman, so this Postman does its things in form of what? In form of collections. So a collection is like a particular project that you're working with. So if you have more than one project, you can put them in a what? In different collections. So the first collection that I'm going to do, I'm going to create a one collection for what? For our project. So after I've logged in, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a collection for our project. So let me close all the tabs here. I'll just simply click on plus here and create a new what? A blank collection. Okay, so this collection, I'll give it a name by just double clicking here, or right clicking and say rename. So this collection, I can call it inventor track, the name of our project. Okay, so after creating this collection, so the first thing that we're going to begin with, we're going to begin with creating maybe the registration, creating the registration. Okay, should we begin the yeah, I think we should begin with creating the registration, and also after the registration we should work now with the login. So let us begin with the registration. After registration, we go ahead and do what? And create the login. Okay, so let's begin. Let us begin. So we begin here by creating our registration. So this is our collection where we're going to be putting our endpoints. Okay, so let us begin with with our very first folder. So we're going to create, in this collection you can put many folders, okay, according, just like the way we had our different modules. So likewise here you can put different folders. So I'm going to create a folder of authentication, the folder that is going to be responsible for what? For authentication. So right click here and say new folder, add folder, and I'm going to call this one authentication. Okay, authentication. So that will be the folder responsible for logging in, updating your account, etc. That's going to be the folder responsible for that. Alright, so with that much said, okay, the next thing that we're going to do now is to create the what? The registration endpoint. So I'll just simply click here and say, when you click on that add request, this will be now your first request that I'm going to put to test something. So our first request is going to be for the registration. So this is just a name, so we have not put there a link where this registration should be pinged. So with that said, let us go ahead and create now the registration endpoint that where someone will submit the information and we go ahead and do it and register the person. Right, so let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing we shall, what should I do after doing this? We're going to go back now to our application. This is our application. So I'm going to close everything. Okay, so our endpoint, our API endpoints are going to be in what we call the API route. So you come here to routes, you'll find two main files. One file is called web.php. That is the one that you will use for what? For web purposes. And then this one is called api.php. So this api.php is where we're going to put our different kinds of endpoint. So the first kind of endpoint, the first endpoint that we're going to put is the registration endpoint. So to create the registration endpoint, I'll just simply come here on top. For example, I'll come here on top. I'm going to show you just a very simple way of creating an API. Maybe in the next sessions, in the next tutorials, I'll now teach you how you can create a very secure and protected API with tokens. For now, I'm going to just show you something simple that is not going to do it to confuse you. All right, so here we're going to begin the registration. So to create the registration, you just simply say route. So this route is how you start with creating a registration route. I mean a route, any kind of route, and then you put like this, and then you say it is post. So when you're expecting data, it is better that we receive this data using what? Using post, because post is much more secure. And when we shall be sending data, we're going to be sending data using what? Using get. So we are in this API, okay? So I'm going to say post, and then after putting post, we're going to go ahead and put the what? The name of the, I mean, we put the method. So the method is going to be post, okay? Route and then post. So after doing that, so we open bracket and then put here. The first thing that you put is the name of the endpoint. So I can put maybe authentication, something like auth, and then say register. Or you can even put register if that's what you want. And then after here, you put a function that is going to do what? To work with the registration, or we are going to do the registration logic. So you can just simply write here like function, and then you open bracket, and then you open curly bracket after here, and then here you put the logic that you're going to do in registration. Okay, so for example here I can die and say time to register, just for testing. So it means that someone, if they come to this and say, someone sends post to this method, I mean to this endpoint, we shall be able to do what? To register. I mean we shall be able to access this function, or we shall be able to execute this function. All right, I think we are still together. Okay, so now let's see how we can access this endpoint. So to access this endpoint, so we come back to our postman. We want now to send some data here and see if it will be able to reach this. So what we're going to do, we shall come back here to postman, and here on our registration, under authentication registration, what? On registration request, what we're going to do, we're going to put there the link that will send the registration request. So after when we finish serving our project, of course our project is on what? On this endpoint, okay, according to my laptop, but your laptop can have a different what? A different endpoint. Okay, so after putting the main endpoint or the main route for your laptop or for your computer, the next thing that you're going to do, you're going to put the word API. So this API is the one that will make sure that it is pointing in a what? In the API file, this one here. So you have to put the word API, and then you put stroke, and then after putting stroke, then you put the endpoint that you want to access. So our endpoint is auth stroke register. So I can just put here auth stroke register as well. You can leave the word auth if you want to. Okay, so auth stroke register, that is going to be our what? Our endpoint, I mean our API. So if I send now, you will see that I'm getting an error, and this error is called method not allowed. So here the method that I'm using to send to this one is not allowed. So the method that is allowed here, you can see here we're using the method of get. So the method that is allowed here, we are allowing only post. So it means that you have to do what? To change this one from get and put it to post. So post, that is when you're submitting data to what? To your project. Now if I send, now I'll be able to see that I'm getting the response as time to register. That is so beautiful. Okay, that is so beautiful. That shows that our system has successfully connected. Now, so before I proceed, there are a few things that I want to show you. So this endpoint, okay, the endpoint with the word, I mean this API up to the word API here, up to here, almost you're going to repeat this endpoint everywhere. So but it means that as well it can change depending on the platform that you're using, or depending on some reason this endpoint can change. So since it is going to be a variable that you may need to repeat everywhere, so it will be a smart move to put this variable somewhere, so we'll be calling it other than keep on repeating ourselves. So if you want to do that, then that introduced us to the concept of environments. So environments, as it sounds, it is the environment that allows you to put your variables in one place and then you keep on calling them. So let's say that you're using maybe you're testing now the online version. You may just need to create the variables of the online environment. I mean, on of the online link, and also the token, and also the user, and then put them in one environment. So when you change, you just change only one time. So I'm going to create an environment where I'm going to put some of my constants, things that I may need to repeat myself. So I'm going to put them there and they'll be there. So I just be calling them as variables. Okay. So we're going to create our environment for inverter track, or when we are testing on the local machine. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So to create and we put there our constants, things like this one, things like the base URL, this one, it's not going to change. So it will be smart if we do what, we put it in one place. So we're going to come here to this section of environment. After creating this section, after clicking on this section of environment, we're going to create a new environment for what? For inverter track. So click on environment and then go ahead and click on this plus. Okay. So give this new environment a name. So you can call it inverter track. So I can go ahead and say this maybe it's a local environment, the one that I'm using when I'm offline. So maybe when we shall also test the online API, we may need to do what? To switch it. So after doing this, so you can see this is a inverter track, the local environment. So the next that we're going to do, we're going now to do what? To put there our variables. See here, you can create a variable and you give it what? A value. So the variable that I'm going to create is URL, okay, or API URL. You can call it anything that you want. So this URL, so I'll go ahead and cut and copy the other URL that we're going to use here in this collection, and then come to this register. I'm going to cut this one here, this beginning from this stroke, the whole of it, and I cut it. Okay, so I'll cut it, Ctrl X or Ctrl C. Okay, Ctrl X. Okay, for those who are using Windows, and then come here back to environment and then click on what? On inverter track local, and then come here and put the value. So you see I've just created URL, so I come here and put the value and also put here the value. So you see now I have this as a variable. So it is HTTP API stroke. So I put the stroke because I don't want to repeat also the stroke all the time. Okay, so I put this stroke, and now this is a variable URL. You can create as many variables in this environment as possible. So after creating this environment, the next thing is you now have to set it as active, because when I'm switching to another project, I don't need again to create another environment. So I will need to create this environment only one time. I can switch them when I want. So I'll go ahead and switch the environment. So to set the environment as active, you just simply come to the environment that you want and then you click on this tick. So by doing like this, it will set that environment as active. Or you can as well come here to this section and then you switch to the environment that you want. You can do any of those two. For example, if you want to switch this one, you'll see it is this one. Okay, so both of them are the same. If you want to switch to the one that you want, come here and then say inverter. So it means that now the system or this postman is going to use this one as a what? As our current environment. So I'm going to use now this variable URL. Okay, so I'll come here to our what? To our collections and click on register, and then come here. So instead of putting auth stroke register, I'll just simply come and put these two brackets. You open two brackets like this and then close them, and in between you put the what? Sorry, you open one bracket. Is it two or one? I think it's two. I think, let me move my mouse here. Yeah, it is two. So you open two curly brackets and close them, and then in between you put the variable that you want to reference. So if you move your mouse over there, they'll be able to show you the variable that they have replaced there. So this one will help us not from not repeating ourselves again and again and again and again. So that is how we implement the environment. So this is going to do the same job. So it means that the other value is just going to be what? To be substituted here, the value of the route. So if I press there, you'll see I'm getting the same what? The same response. This is why you'll be getting the what? The response. All right, so after doing that, the next thing that you have to do, you may need to set your headers, and then you say here you should accept. Okay, come here and click on headers, and they say come here and say accept. So you should accept, and then you come and put here JSON like this and select this one. So there it will be treated like a what? Like an API request. Okay. So that is it. Now it means that the next thing that we're going to do, now you see I can be able to send, I can be able to get the request. So the next thing that that we're going to do is now to create the logic of what? Of registration. So let's come back now to our project. So it will be very much complicated. It will be very much complicated if we want to create a what? If we want to create the logic of what? Of everything in this one file. The routes can be too much, and our file will start confusing us. So it will be smart that if we create a controller or an external controller, that we shall be just calling, that we shall put there the functions, and then we'll be just calling those functions. So we know that this one will just be a simple list of our different routes or different endpoints, and it will be referencing to functions that are in another file, so that our things should look a little bit more organized and avoid creating what? Chaos or problems. So imagine that if I write here now like 30 lines of registration only, and now I come to login, I create those other 30 lines. So it can become so much what? So much complicated. So what we're going to do, we're going to create another file, or we're going to create another what we call another controller, and then we shall be referencing from that controller. You will put different methods or different functions that will be doing what? That will be doing different what? Different logics. So I'll just simply come here to app, then HTTP, and then you'll see controllers. So this is a basic controller or an external controller. What I'm going to do, I'm going to copy and paste it so I can create mine in the API controller. Copy and paste. So here I have a copy. So I can come and rename it. And then I come and say this one maybe is API controller. So make sure that you begin with a capital letter like you have done. Okay, so copy this name. Okay, and then make sure that name is the name of a what? Of this class here. Okay, so it is API controller is extending the base API. So inside here we are going to put this is just a simple class. You see this name should be the same as this one. So we're going to put now here our different kind of what? Different kind of logic. Okay, so our first function, for example, that we're going to do what we call public function register. Okay, so public function register, and then inside this function I just put maybe time to register from controller like this, so to make sure that I'm able to connect to this one. So after doing this controller with this first method, we shall come back to our what? To our API. So instead of writing this function here, I'm going to wrap it. Okay, so the first thing that we have done is to put the what? Let me collapse this one. The first thing that we have done is just to put the endpoint name. Okay, you can as well remove this auth and put register if you want. It's okay. So I'll just simply come here. Now we want to reference this method that I've created in the what? In the API controller. So what you do, you open this square bracket in some kind of an array. So the first thing that you pass the class. So we say API controller like this. Hope it's like that one. I'm not sure. Let me first get from here. Yeah, it's like that. Okay, so you open the bracket and then put two colons and then put class like this. Okay, so you put the class that you're referring to, and then the second you open comma and put the method that you want in that class, register. So by doing like this, you'll be able to click on this and then go to that method. So by doing like this, you should be able to do what now to call this method when you're registering. Let's test that. I'm not sure that is working, but that's supposed perfect. You see, time to register from what? From controller. Okay, so that's how you do it. So it means that here you're just going to have our line like these ones, as the method and the logic are being done from what? From another side. So if we want to just refresh, we just refresh control and click on it, and it will do what? It will go there. So make sure that this API controller is imported here like this in order to work. So I hope you can see that. That is how we do it. That is how we set the endpoint. So it means that now anyone, wherever they are, if they send some data here, we shall be able to do what? To access that method. All right, now let's do the logic of now registering. So I'll just simply press Ctrl and go to this what? To this method of register. So this is the place where we're going to do what? The registration. So this method, it can expect also what you call a request. Okay, so you can just simply put what you call request. This request that is coming here from HTTP, not this other request. This HTTP request, and then put here request. So make sure that this is the one that is imported. It's not any other thing. So this request is the one that is going to be containing the data that is being sent. Okay, so let's say that I want to display someone's name. Okay, I can just simply say die and say maybe hello, and then I put name like this. So it means that this data or the post data that will come will be coming through this what? Through this request name. So if I go ahead and send, so you'll see hello, but nothing is being displayed because I've not sent the name. So if I want to send the name in Postman, just simply come here to the body. Okay, click body here, and then come here in this drop down and say form data. Okay, so this form data will give you a place where you can put name and the value, the name and the value. So I can just simply put here maybe name, okay, and then say Muhindo Mubaraka. And then after I say send. So when I say send, you see hello Muhindo Mubaraka. So it means that the data has been received successfully in this request as we expected. Alright, so after doing that, now let's go ahead and start doing the logic. Now if you want to send, we want to create a way how we shall be sending back the information. So for me, I have a way how I could if I want to send back the information, how do I want to send it? Okay, so it will be great if we do what? We have one way or a standard way of how we send back the information. So if it is an error, we show someone it's an error. If it is a success, we show someone it's a what? It's a success. So since we want to do it in a standard way, so it means that it will be better if we create just one method that will be responsible for sending out the responses. Okay, so we're going to create two methods. One method is going to be for success response, and then another method will be for the error response, okay, in case something did not go right. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to put this method in our utilities function. Our utilities class, you see, remember I created here our utilities class. So I'll come here to under models utilities class. So in this class, we are going to put just two methods. One method is going to be for sending the success. Another method is going to be for sending the errors. Okay, so I'm going to put here public static. It should be accessed statically. Function, and then for example, let's begin with that one of success. So I can just simply put maybe success. That's what maybe you can call it, whoever I can call it, you can call it in your own way that you want. So I open here bracket. So the first thing that we may need to send, so we may need to send, for example, the data and the message and the code. Okay, so data and the message. Okay, data and the message, those two things. So to do that, I'll just simply come and and begin by accepting what. So let me explain this. Let me collapse here. So this method will be taking two things. So the first thing, it will be taking the data. So the data by default will be null. Then the second that it will be taking the message, okay, the message, and then the message will be like the message that someone may need to send back as a custom one, as a custom message, okay. Yeah, so those are two things that we may need to send back, okay. So after here, I'll come here and say return, and then say response, and then you say, all right, let's just do like this. All right, so I want the response to be in JSON, okay. So you have to write this line. You say header, just write exactly I've written it here. Header, content type, and then put application.json. So this one will make sure that the response that is being sent back is in what? Is in JSON. So you write this, is very important. And then after, what we're going to do now is want now to send back the response. Okay, so to send back the response, so you just simply put JSON encode, or you just simply say return, or you say maybe die JSON encode. Okay, so when you say JSON encode, it's going to encode this data in what? Into JSON format. And then you say JSON encode, and then you say success, and then you say here success, and I mean status to be success, and then the message to be the message that you're sending, and then the data as data. Okay, so I always use here what you call code. So code will be 1. So 1 will stand for the success of what? Of the, I mean the 1 will stand that everything is okay. Everything is okay. That will be the response of 1. And then this is the message, just in case you want to send back the message, you'll be passing it in here. And then this one, the first one will be what? Will be now the data that you're sending back. So if you want to remove the default, you can as well remove the default by just making them compulsory like this. So someone will be able to send this to every time they send a response. So you can pause the video and see what I've done. So this is going to be the one that will be sending the success, okay? So I can go ahead, let's go ahead and test this one first. So if you want to send back success, so we shall come back here to our API controller. If you want to send back success, we shall just simply call utils. Okay, so if everything is okay, so I import utils, and then I do like this to pass. Okay, so I say pass. Okay, I say utils, and then I say success. So just simply put here success. So this first thing, you pass the data. Okay, so the data I can put maybe an empty array, and then the second thing I can just pass here the message that I want to send back as a message. So this is going to be register successfully, for example. So if you come back this success, you will see it will receive the data and then the response. So this success will do, it will set the response to be in JSON format, and also the error status code to be 200, and then say JSON encode, and then open brackets, and then inside there put an array, and then the first thing is the code. The code is going to be 1. Then the second thing is the message that you've set from wherever you've set it from, and then the third thing is the data, which is the data variable that you're sending back. So if you come back here, we are just sending here the data and like this. So if you come here and try, you'll see our data. Wait. Okay, you're not echoing it. So you can just simply say echo instead of return, and then die. Okay, so that the method, the system should not go beyond there. Okay, so just echo this, whatever you've converted to JSON like this, and then die. Now if we try to send back here, you'll see that when you click on pretty, you'll see that our response, we have it is well organized in JSON format, whereby we have the status as success, the data as empty, and then the message as user registered successfully. So by doing like this, we shall be able to do what? To know, okay, that now something can be sent back successfully. If you want to access as a row, you'll see there. If you want to access as a preview, you'll see it in that way. So we shall always use this pretty, so you can be able to see the data in well organized JSON format. So I hope you can see this method properly and understand. It is just as simple as that. All right, so with that much said, let's go to another thing. Okay, so we are back here now. Let's go back now to the API, and maybe let us also go ahead and create the error method in case there is something that is not right. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate this one of success. Just going to look like the same. So just duplicate success. Okay, so we put here error. Okay, so error, should we send back some data when there's an error? I don't know. Should we send back the data? So it is up to you. You may either decide to be sending back the data, but in most cases for me, I don't send back the data when there's an error. So let me just send error, and then I'll just be sending back the message. Okay, so the response is going to be the same, everything the same. Even here, I may leave it like this, and then here I remove the data variable, and then I just send here. So the status, the code, sorry, here may I use codes. I use code instead of status, but for you can use anything that you want. So the code is 1. Now here my code is going to be 0. So when you shall see the code of 0, just know that something did not go right. Okay, so like this. I hope you can see that. So let me go ahead and copy this, and then we try to test it. So if you come here to API, okay, come back to API. So we have already tested the success. When you test the success, you'll see that the code is 1 and the data is there, and there is no what? There's no response. All right, so let's go ahead and test. Let's go ahead and test the success, the error. So the error will be, we just remove this. The error does not accept this one. It just takes the message. Okay, maybe I can say maybe something went wrong. It's something like this. So here it's when I'm calling the error response. Okay, the one that is responding the error. So I can maybe put here data and make it null, something like this, just as a placeholder. All right, so let's go ahead and test the error. So here in the register, we're sending back that something went wrong. So if you try to test the error, you'll see that the code is 0 and that is null, and then something went wrong. So everything is now fine. At least we have now said the what? The basics. So let's now start creating the registration. The registration logic. Okay. So we begin. We begin. Okay. So let's begin. I don't know even where to start from. Okay, let's begin. So let's begin by, so we are going to need 2 things here. So if someone is creating an account, when someone is creating an account, we shall need 2 things. We shall need the user information, and also we shall need the company information. Okay, so those are the 2 things that we shall need for when someone is doing what? When someone is creating the company. Okay, so we shall need those 2 things. So we shall make sure that someone has provided his user information, you create the user account, and then after we go ahead and create the company information. All right, so let's go ahead and do these things. Okay, so we're going to begin by expecting the user information. So let's go back to our localhost and see which records that we need for the user. Okay, so then come here to inventor track. So on admin users, let me collapse this. So I'm going to copy this column that we need here on top. I'll just copy them, and then I'm going to create here a block comment, and I put them here. So these are the columns that we're going to need when you're doing what? When you're creating the user. So that is it for this lecture. Let's meet in the next lecture where we're going now to work with what? With registration. Don't miss the next lecture.
Hello, and how are you? Welcome to our seventh.
Hello, and how are you? My name is Muhindo and I welcome you to our 14th lecture. All right, let's start the second session. Hello, and how are you? My name is Muhindo and I welcome you to our 15th lecture of creating a complete inventory management system. As you know, we always do 40 minutes, and you can see our time has started counting. So without wasting much time, let's go straight to our today's business. So we stopped from the previous lecture at this registration point. We got introduced to Postman. We even tested a few things. So we saw this registration point. So we went ahead and copied the names, the value that we shall need when you're creating when you're creating a user. Okay. So you're going to check if someone has submitted a few things, and then after we go ahead and do the logic of registration of the user, and then you say that we're going to need these two main things. Okay, the company information and also the registration information. So let's go ahead and check these few things. Okay, so for me, I always see this request as a big thing. I can make it an R, so it can be a smaller variable for me. Okay, so I've just changed it to R. So the first thing we're going to check if someone has submitted the username. Let's just first see the thing that we're going to check here. If someone submitted the username, someone submitted the password, if someone submitted their first and last name, I'll check if someone submitted their phone number, their email, their phone number. Okay, so I don't know which one I should use. I think we should use email. If we'll check if someone submitted their email. Okay, so those are the things that you're going to check first. Okay, so because you cannot download an application if you don't have an email at least. So again, check someone submitted an email. Okay, and then after doing those things, and then we go ahead and do the logic of registration. So to check, I'll just simply come here and say if is set. Okay, so if is not set, and then I put error. Or I can just simply say if and then say first name equals to null, I just send back the error. So I just say utils error first name is required. Okay, let me just put here some success, maybe something like that. All right, so if someone doesn't send to us first name, we just send back the error. So you say utils error first name is required. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. So if I go ahead and send, you'll see I'm getting error, which is first name is required. So if I go ahead and just change this variable and put first underscore name, so I go ahead and send, you'll see that success. So it means that it is working. So let's go ahead and check for the first name. Let's go ahead and check for the last name. Check if last name is provided. So I do the same. I also check if the email is provided. I do the same. I do check if email is valid. So I hope you can see that. So Copilot is helping me. So this is how we check if the email is valid. What else do we need to check? Now let's check if there's another user. I think those are the things that we need. Okay, those are the things that we need: first name, last name, and also a valid email. What else do we need apart from that? We can leave the phone number. The phone number can become optional. Okay, so we shall be logging in someone by an email. All right, so let's check if there's also another user with the same email. So this is how you check. So I can say user equals to, I say user where email equals to this, and I get the first user. So I say get for me the user whose has the email that has been provided. Okay, so I check if is not null, and I will go ahead and say email is already registered or is already used by another account. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you. All right, so let's go ahead and get also some company table before we do everything, and check if password is provided. I think that was also very important. So password also required. So you can say maybe if you want password to be at least 8 characters. Okay, that one is not necessary for now. All right, so let's go ahead and get the company information also, so that we should just set everything at once when we start creating. So all right, let's go ahead and get the company information. So I'll come here to the table of companies. Okay, I'll come to the table of companies. Check if company name is provided. So shall go and say if company name is equal to null, then it will return an error and say company name is what? Is null. I think that is what is most important. And this maybe currency. If currency is null, then say currency is required. I think those are the most important fields. Okay, so if someone has provided all these things, then we shall go ahead and check if shall we need to check also if the company name already exists? I think that's not very necessary, because some companies can have same names. All right, we may need to check that maybe also.